Hey, guys. Welcome back to Tea with Tamela. So happy to have you guys join me today. Today, I have a really good friend who I've just been fortunate to kind of grow with over the past several months. We have Angie Taylor here, who is the founder of Valor Global. And I just wanted to get her here because a lot of people know that I've homeschooled. My kids have never been to school before. So my oldest is entering into the fourth grade. And I always get like a ton of questions around like, why do you homeschool? Like, how do you do it? How did you decide to go down that path? Aren't homeschool kids weird? You get all of these questions, about homeschooling and kind of choosing a different educational path that's not traditional. And so, I just really have a heart and a passion for education. And I think one of the things a lot of people didn't know about me was I was pursuing a career in education before I, married my husband and kind of began to follow his career path. But working in the public schools briefly, I was there very briefly, but there were so many things that concerned me. There were so many things that I felt like was just a disservice to the students. And I started to see like I had a passion for educating, but not the traditional way, because there's a way to really shape and mold the whole child. But when you have, school board and state boards and all of these people standing over you telling you to do this, teach for a test, like it makes it extremely hard to really cultivate an environment where the child is priority, where you are able to customize your learning plan specifically for each child's needs. And so there are so many different things, and not to, bash anybody who's in public education or private education, but there were just some things that did a disservice to my heart. And I'm like, I want more, not just for my kids, but I want more for other people's children. But how do I advocate for mine, but not just mine? Like create a model, advocate for my children, but also advocate for other people, for them to be able to get some insight into what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how that may be able to spill over into their family. And so I have Ange here, who is like a mastermind when it comes to creating curriculums and building schools. And like she does all the things, but also has a background in education. So could you give us like a little bit of a backstory about how you even began like your educational path?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Tamela. What an honor to joining you on your podcast. I've loved listening to it. And of course, I'm great fans of you and your husband. So such a pleasure to be here today. I have actually been in education for 30 years, both public and private school education. I started in inner city Minneapolis with just this great passion to serve underprivileged youth, kids that needed more support. And I honestly had come really quickly into the realization, similar to yours, that at the end of the day, it became about test scores, and it became about mandates coming down that had nothing to do with what the kids in my classroom needed. So then I moved on to Christian school thinking, well, surely this is the right answer for our kids, in large part because I believe so strongly every kid was created by God for divine plan and purpose, so I thought, well, surely this is the answer, but got into Christian school and realized we are raising up a generation of very apathetic, entitled kids and became really concerned about that a lot of, what a lot of private schools, not all, and I'm with you, I don't want to overgeneralize because there are great teachers all over this country doing great work, both public and private. But the reality is in my experience, a lot of people were paying to go to private school, confusing that with paying for grades. We were serving a very affluent client base, and there was a lot of entitlement that was so distasteful to me because I felt like it was so dishonoring to what God had for us. And so fast forward 25 years into my journey, I started the very first brick and mortar Valor campus just outside of Portland, Oregon, with this vision of, one, how do we really acknowledge that education that we know it as today was built in the 1830s. It was built to send kids into factory and blue collar work. We needed kids simply to read directions, follow them exactly. But the reality is that's not the world we're handing our kids. The second realization was the understanding that it's the creators, not the consumers, that actually are dictating culture in our country. And so if we are going to, as believers, effectively raise up a generation that are going to have meaningful impact in building the kingdom of God, we have to position them as a creator, not simply a consumer. So the school was, built on that. Long story short, a number of schools later, we now have a global network of schools, and Valor Global Online being one of them, which is how you and I connected.
Yes, which I am super, super excited about, all the things that I've experienced, that I'm experiencing, that's to come. And so it's been a really, really unique opportunity for me to just get to know more about you, more about your heart, but then also just like the countless projects and the countless hours and like your passion behind like all the things that you're doing. I know with just speaking about being in public and private education and spending quite some time in the classroom and being able to identify different things with the students, like how did you get, I guess, the boldness to really step out and say, you know what? Like, this is what I've been able to observe. This is what I desire. And I feel like this is what God is calling me to. So I'm just going to step out on faith. I'm going to launch this thing. I'm going to see how it unfolds. But, a lot of times, like when God like gives us vision and he gives us clarity and he places so many things inside of our hearts, like it's a lot. It requires like a lot of faith steps because sometimes it just doesn't make sense to the people around us. But we're like, no, I feel like God is calling me to this. So what I wanted to know is, how did you really get the boldness to step out on faith to create such a phenomenal new way of educating children, but also educating parents and other believers as well? Because I feel like sometimes like God gives us like these great gifts and these passions and these dreams, and like we have to step out on them. But sometimes it's like they don't make sense, and it's like, okay, like I'm going to do this really big thing, but how am I going to really make it happen? So how did you like really get that boldness to do that?
Yeah, what's interesting about that story is it literally God. I feel like it was my leaving Egypt moment, right? When Pharaoh had made the circumstances so hard for the Israelites, but they had no other choice, really, but to exit Egypt. And my journey was very similar. I was in a leading in a Christian school. Things were not. The school was going great. Other things outside of my control were not going well. And I knew I had come to a season where it was time for me to step away from the school. I step away from the school. At that point, I'm thinking I'm just leaving education. I actually, at the time, had this interesting opportunity to attend Harvard Global Think Tank on Education. They have this massive summit that they do every year, inviting educators from all over the world to come in and discuss the state of education. And I'm at this summit, and there are leaders all over the world talking about how education is broken and what can we do to fix it. And what was fascinating to me is I realized that the most brilliant minds in education didn't know the answer to this. And I had things that God had deposited over the years in my heart that I felt like he was saying, this is the divine strategy. I'm somebody that literally every night before I go to bed, I pray for divine strategy. God, give me the divine strategy.
I love that.
And I felt like he had breathed something into me. So I literally at that point had been pushed out of my Christian school, had about 30 parents emailing me saying, just tell us where you're going to go. We'll follow you. And had this vision on my heart. Meanwhile, God, I'm in this academic setting, recognizing nobody has the answers. So it's time for a new solution. Like there's not an answer here. It's time for a new solution, and somebody's got to be bold enough to step into it. So I actually invited these 30 families into a conversation with me. I said, hey, this night's free tell all your friends, invite your friends, and I'm going to unfold a vision of what God has laid on my heart to do in education. And that night, we actually ended up with over 300 people in attendance, which blew my mind. But here's what the crazy part of it. And this is how you know it's all to God's glory. It's all his credit. This is how you know it's a God thing, right? Is that night I explained to families, here's the vision of Valor. Here's what I believe we can accomplish. It's not about a school. It's about a movement. Here's my reality. I actually don't have any money and I don't have a building. But I believe this is the vision that God has for us. So if you're willing to walk out this vision with me and walk Jericho with me and pray through this with me, I want you to pay and enroll your kids tonight in Valor. And that night, with no building, no money, just simply, here's the vision. I actually had 85 students enroll in the school.
That is insane.
So it was, it was, I'm not even gonna lie. I woke up the next morning going, what is happening? I'm like working at home at my kitchen table on my cell phone, and people are calling me going, hey, we heard about your school. We want to enroll. And it was comical because I'm telling them, well, just so you know, I don't actually have a school. But I'll take, if you want to pay to enroll your kids, so and the part of the vision that we didn't talk about was Valor was founded upon this principle of to whom much is given, much is required. And so it really was, how do we bring people together in this beautiful way? So when kids enrolled in our initial campus, we were going to sponsor kids in a developing nation into education that had no access to education. And so literally, right as we're starting our first school, we were starting our second school simultaneously in the Philippines. And the second school was being fully funded by the first school. And when I tell you, I'm so glad God didn't tell me any part of this journey because because I would have thought, oh, I have to do all of this. I can't do it. And I was right. Like I could not do it. The miraculous, literally in our first year in education, we ended the year with 2 schools funded, with 1 school funding the second school. We ended our first year completely debt free. And that's unheard of in a new business, in a new startup, but you knew it was God. And in our second year, we had a publisher in South Korea come to us and say, hey, we got this resort property. We're going to sell it, or you can open a Valor campus on this resort property. What would you like to do? And of course, in my own wisdom, I'm like, no, I just started 2 schools. I'm not about to start a 3rd school. And, my board member was like, you got to pray about it. Let's go to Korea. We went to Korea. Literally end up going to Korea, realizing, okay, this is all God. He's handing us a place for this school. So we said yes. So in our second school year, we opened South Korea, realizing that if we opened South Korea, it meant we needed another developing nation school to fund. And so we had to open Haiti. And it just like kept in our second year. The person that's the co-founder in the online with me, Doug and Tia Wood, they tracked me down completely. I was on vacation in Cabo. They found me in Cabo, met with me for coffee and said, we want to do Valor Online. And so it's just the story unfolded. Today we have 8 schools globally in 7 years, but it was all completely those, I genuinely, the only credit I get on this, and it's my encouragement for every parent, Tamela, that is scared to homeschool their kid or to take their kid's education, is say yes, because God has such a good plan that will exceed that. Ephesians 3:20, he exceeds all of our wildest expectations for what can happen when we say yes and partner with him.
No, I love that, because you recently posted something, and I think you mentioned it, like, it's time for parents to like take back their power, and
Yes.
I feel like we've relinquished so much of that, to schools, to churches, to mentors. It's just like we're sending our kids out to receive everything, but then they're coming back in, and some of the things that they're coming back in with are toxic. Like it's not aligning with our moral value system. It's not setting them up for optimal success. It's not helping them become like the best individuals that they can be. And it's like almost like hurting everybody together, it's like a one model fits
100%.
all. And I'm like over it. I'm like, I am so over it. So when I saw that, I'm like, yes, like I need to see more parents do this. How do you encourage, what are, I guess, the first steps that you would encourage a parent to take, or the first 3 steps to take to like regain that power and to be the main voice, in their children's lives and the lives of their families? Like how do they take those steps?
Well, I love this question, because I think in a lot of ways parents have disqualified themselves, feeling like, but if I take my kid's education, I was terrible at school. If I educate my kid, it's going to be a nightmare, right? So I think that's the first thing. Is here's what I want to say to every parent: is God knit that baby together in their mother's womb, which means he chose you. He trusts you to raise and partner with him in raising that baby of yours. And nobody on this planet is going to know and understand your child like you know and understand your child, because at the end of the day, your child's this brilliant makeup of you and your husband, right? You see characteristics all the time that you're like, oh, you got that from your daddy, and no educator is going to be able to see those nuances. It's what I loved about Valor, is right out of the start gate is we are here to partner with parents. Your role is essential in the life of your child. So I just want to encourage every parent that, number one, there are a lot of resources out there. First of all, you got to believe that you're the right person for your kid. That's the first thing, right? And if today you're like, I'm not the right person for my kid, get counseling, do whatever it takes, get coaching, get mentoring, do whatever it takes to get yourself in the place to be the right person for your child, because there are no greater influences in your child's life than a parent. Literally, there's nothing greater for a child, whether you're abdicating responsibility or not. You're still always going to be the number one influence in the child's life. Like the conversations I've had with kids over 30 years about a dad who's been completely absent, a mom who left when they were 15, the abdication does not mean lack of influence. And so I think that's the thing that parents have to embrace, is I am the number one influencer. I get to choose what that looks like.
Yep. Which is so beautiful, because like you said, we've already like disqualified ourselves. And I remember when people, because homeschool is so unheard of, like where I'm from, where Demario is from. And so when we first started to really discuss it and say, like, we're not going to put our kids in school, like we're going to homeschool, it was shot down so much. And like me being a person who'd like, I'm like, I was about to go and teach someone else's kids. So how do I feel like I'm equipped to teach someone else's children, but I'm not equipped to teach my own? And it was just like, sometimes people's voice become louder than your voice, or louder than God's voice. And so like God was calling us to it, but all the noise started to kind of like make me hesitant, make me doubt and question
Yeah.
myself. Like, am I capable? What does this look like?
Mm-hmm.
Will my
Mm-hmm.
kids be weird? And I'm asking all of these
Mm-hmm.
questions. So, it's really, really good to take those steps that you just mentioned, but then also just really listening to the voice of God. Because if it's continuing to like pull on your heartstring and like it's tugging you, then it's probably God saying like, this is what I'm calling you
100%.
to. And it's not gonna look like, what you're trying to plan out or whatever. Like it's a faith move, and
It is.
are you going to blindly follow and say yes to the call with, no resource, no whatever? And it's just like, okay, God, like here I am, use me to be what
Mm-hmm.
you've called me to
Mm-hmm.
be for my child, for my children, for my family. And then he provides. And I know there have been so many times where I've debated like, oh, I'm just going to put my kids in school. Like maybe I should, like I'm tired, like I
It's
don't know.
hard, right?
And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard because it requires like dying to self daily
Mm.
and seeing the bigger mission and the bigger call. And
Yeah,
every
good.
time I got there, like God showed up. He sent somebody, he sent like some resource. I would just get a random call from somebody who I met randomly across country. It's like, I was thinking about you today and I just want to encourage you like on your homeschool journey. I'm like, wait, what? Like, okay, God, I got it. Like you're simply
Mm-hmm.
saying like, like stay on the course or whatever. And so what would you tell like just a family who feels like, okay, like I can be the best version of myself when it comes to nurturing my children and when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to creating like a great, being a great role model and all of these things, but I don't have what it takes to
Right.
really educate them. And not because, I'm not educated, but it's just like I don't have the capacity. Like you have to kind of
Yeah.
know like what you have the capacity for. So
Absolutely.
how would you encourage them? Like you can still keep your kids home. They can still be homeschooled or
Mm-hmm.
enroll, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do all of it as long as like your heart behind it is right and the
Right.
mission is right and your yes is
100%.
right.
Yeah.
Like what are some things out there?
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is a great question. And just in response of reminding yourself that God's ways are higher than your ways, and the reality is
Mm-hmm.
when you feel Him prompting you, He's not prompting everybody around you. He's prompting
Mm-hmm.
you, and so a bold yes, but ways. Obviously, Valor Global Online is a great option. That'd be obviously a no-brainer for me. The first response. We partner with parents with live teaching as well as hands-on projects and advocates
Mm-hmm.
that we like to call our online mamas. So exploring that. But Pamela or Tamela, what you've discovered already is when you start moving in a direction, God
Mm-hmm.
surrounds you with the people in that space that are going to
Right.
support your journey, because you start attracting your people. When you start stepping out in bold yeses, you
Yep.
attract the people. And so what I would tell parents is as you start seeking out hey, there's so many homeschool co-ops out there right now. There's so many organizations like ILA out of California is another great one that, when a parent wants to homeschool, but they're not sure how to go about it, they have a great program by
Mm-hmm.
which they help you find the right curriculum, understand the right co-ops that are available to you. So there's the gamut. I also have a lot of parents that have decided to, hey, I want to be the major influence in my kid's life. I have a day job that I'm working from home at, so I'm going to go ahead and hire a nanny or
Mm-hmm.
somebody to come into my home to partner with the educators. The reality
Yep.
is there's tons of opportunity in this space. In fact, I think since COVID, it's never been richer than it is right now
Yes.
to step into this space. So if you have any concerns about it, the number one thing you need to do is voice it about wanting to move into the space, because that's how you find your people. You start voicing your
Mm-hmm.
vision, giving voice to your dreams. That's how your people start getting drawn to you and the resources come.
No, no, no. I love that. I love that. And I think it's very encouraging to hear just for myself. And I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for a while, but that's very encouraging. But then also to provide options for people who, start to think of ways why they can't do it, because it's
Right.
going to be, because it's foreign, which it's becoming a little bit more popular currently, but because it's foreign for a lot of people and their families, like hearing those options gives them the opportunity to say, like, I can do this, and it doesn't have to all be on me. Because I think sometimes like that's kind of what steer people away. It's like, oh, I don't have the capacity for all of that. But it's like, you can do this. And VGO, listen, so my kids, so I met Ange last year, and I'll let you tell them in a minute about a project that we're working on.
I know.
But
I'm very excited about that.
it's like a very exciting project that we're working on out here in New Orleans. But when I met her, we were kind of talking about it, and I'm doing my research, and I'm like, wow, like this sounds amazing. And it was just something that had been on mine and Demario's heart for some time. And we've been so big on like individualized education. We're not, putting everybody in the system, just totally rebellious, I guess, against traditional education in a sense. And after we met you and kind of talked to some families who had been a part of Valor, and then my daughter did, I guess, a shadow day. And she runs out of the office and she's like, can I start tomorrow? And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? Can you start? You're like, do you not like me anymore? Do you not like what I'm doing? But it was just so rich and so rejuvenating. And just like, she felt as if that was like the way for her to go at the tender age of 8 after, like one day of class. And so I say all that to say, like, if you have children who are of this age group, which is starting at 2nd grade, like you guys do such a phenomenal job, like nurturing kids over a computer screen, which like, people are like, oh, like you don't want your kids at a computer all day. I'm like, it doesn't feel like they're at a computer all day. Like they are engaged. The classes are live. The teachers are really like filling their love tank, filling their educational tank, but then it's teaching them so many like unique things. And so we went from, the shadow day to now my older 2 kids are now students with Valor. And we started school, like 2 weeks ago. And the amount that they've learned with just how to navigate the system, how to send emails, how to reach out to their advocates, how to do I'm like, who are you people? Who are you people? But I love it. And so just thinking about like, again, like parents who feel like I can't do it. Like if you can't do it, I know where you can go to get like all of your expectations met, like over and beyond. And I could be biased, but I'm going to say VGO. And the biggest thing with the project that we're working on, as we started to have, different conversations around it, Demario and I'm like, what's being created? Like, I want it to be good enough for my kids. So if it's not good enough for my kids, I can't put my name behind it. But I'm like, it's more than good. Like it's phenomenal. And I'm just excited to see like all the shaping and the molding that my kids will gain as we partner together. Because I love when you use the word partner. Like you're not like trying to take, control. It's like we're partnering with parents to help them really shape and mold their children in all angles before they're launched out into the world. And so with that, share a little bit about a unique project that we're working on here in New Orleans.
Oh my goodness. I am beyond excited about this opportunity actually to partner with you and Demario on the vision for Devoted Dreamers Academy. What we discovered is we had such a common passion in really how do we serve kids well, identifying their strengths and building on their strengths, coming to the table with the understanding of every kid has unique purpose given to them by God. And so Demario's and you have had this vision for starting a school called Devoted Dreamers with a whole sports component piece to it, because what we as I've talked with Demario, what he understands is like, there's a lot of kids out there that love the ideal of going into elite sports, and playing at the collegiate level, playing at the NFL level. But unfortunately, there's very few kids that actually get to go to that level. But the sports industry itself is a multi-billion-dollar industry with a lot of different avenues for kids to go to. But we haven't exposed kids to all of that opportunity. So really, we are developing out a program for kids that have unique passion around sports. Maybe they are athletic, or maybe they're not necessarily the athletes that's going on to college, but they have interest in participating in the sports arena. And so we're developing out a whole program. We're starting in New Orleans as our base project, and it will be one of many schools, I'm sure, with this called Devoted Dreamers Academy, that will really help give kids both the individualized instruction and prepare them well for the next level of academics, while also affording them lab experiences and real world experiences in the sports arena, and really introducing and enlarging their perspective around sports medicine, sports media and entertainment. There are so many avenues for them to travel in this industry that we're really excited to put this together for them.
Yes, we're so excited about it. I think it's going to be something that is going to be life changing for so many students, but also for families. And I feel like it's like a luncheon pad. Like, we're starting, and it's like the baby, and we're going through all the kinks and figuring it out. But it's been a unique experience, I think, laboring alongside you and Adam, and just really seeing your hearts behind education, but most importantly, your hearts behind the gospel going forward. And that's something that is very, very unique when you're able to take like your passions, your faith, your gifts, and like mix it all together, but knowing that everything that we're all trying to do is all for like the audience of one, an audience of one, which is the man upstairs. So I'm not going to hold you much longer. I have so many more questions.
Well, I just wanted to say in response to that, the idea, like, I don't actually believe it's possible. The day I realized I can never go back to public education is I don't believe it's possible to educate a child well, because education is all about drawing out. Right? Not stuffing content in. It's about drawing out gifting, drawing out destiny, drawing out calling. And
yes,
that's all. We need discernment and wisdom from heaven about who was this child called to be? What are the things that I want to speak into and call out, draw out for that child? So I actually don't believe it's possible to effectively prepare a child for their life outside of this powerful mission of understanding. I was one created in the image of God, and he has a seat at the table just for me.
Ooh. Now that that I always say, like, that'll preach, and that's so true. Wow, that hit me. That hit me. That's really true, and I think the biggest thing is really helping our children and get a little emotional to understand like whose they are, and like God has created them like so unique, and he has such a divine calling and purpose for their lives. But it takes people like yourself to really step out on faith, be bold and courageous, say yes to the call, to be able to help children reach their full potential. Because at some point this wasn't an option. Right. And now it's an option.
Right.
For so many children, for so many families. And I just feel like the kids grow, but the parents and the family, like everybody is growing together. And we were just at Great Wolf, and it just felt like such a unique opportunity to join the Valor family, because it feels like a family. It was like a big family reunion. I'm like, I know like 2 people here, but I just feel like I'm a part of something that's so much greater than what I've been able to be a part of before now. And so thank you for creating something just so divine, so mission focused. And I'm grateful for your heart and for you saying yes, because I'm excited for what it'll do for our family, but for all the other families that we'll get to really, really do life with. Yeah.
Well,
so
and honestly, thank you. It's an honor to partner with families like you, though. I just keep coming back to like, this has been a movement that families have taken on with me, right? It's been bumpy. They've helped us design it, but it is. And that's the thing that I want to stress to your audience is it's absolutely each one of us coming to the table saying, I'm here, Lord, use me however you want to use me to build up this next generation. And when we do, it's powerful and it's beautiful. And the unity, you speak of Valor feeling unified. The unity that comes in the Spirit of God crosses all boundaries.
Yes, it does. It does. And I am so blessed and so just honored to be a part of it, to be a part of a unique movement, a super, super unique opportunity. So I just want people to know like where they can find you. Like you have a podcast where you're sharing like so many great things. Then you're on social media, and I'm loving like all the tips, because it's not every day that you're encouraging parents while also pointing out some things that sometimes we don't even think about. So where can all the listeners find you to get some more of like all of your content, all of the amazing things that you have going on, and how you're just really using your life and your voice to educate and to impact and to share wisdom and truth and God and so many other great things as well?
Yeah, thank you. We have a podcast called The Way of Valor, and you can find that on Spotify, all of the normal podcast outlets. I can be found on social media with Mrs. Angie Taylor or just Mrs. Angie Taylor. So official, I know. Valor Schools can be found valoronline.org. Or if you just go to Instagram, Mrs. Angie Taylor, and go to the link in my bio, I have connected you to every possible thing that is Valor that we do. That's probably the easiest thing.
Awesome. Well, Ange, it was so good chatting with you and letting my listeners in to something that I have a privilege to. I have a little bit more privilege than you guys. Like I just kind of ease my way in, and so I wanted to share you with them and let them really, really get a little bit of what I'm getting to see week in and week out, and just thank you so much for your heart behind all the things that you're doing, just for being just mission driven and just so Christ centered. I'm grateful for it. So many other families are grateful for it, but I'm sure God is like really smiling down and saying, way to go, my child. Way to go, my child. So thank you for joining me, Angie. I really enjoyed this time, and I'm going to have you back. Got to have you back.
I know.
I have so many questions I didn't even get to.
Well, likewise. We'll just keep pinging each other's podcasts.
Let's do it. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Tea with Tamela. We'll be back soon.
Tea with Tamela. Let's laugh and spread love. Tea with Tamela. You're more than enough. Tea with Tamela. Don't ever give up. Tea with Tamela. Come and fill your cup. Tea with Tamela.